All right, welcome to Sweaty Startup. I'm here with my friend Casey Walsh. He flew in from Tampa, Florida this morning, got up at 4 a.m., drove from the Atlanta airport all the way out to Athens, specifically to hang out with us. Got a branch in Lawrenceville, so we're talking 2 hours out of the way.
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half out of the way. Thanks for coming, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no. I love it, man. Like I told you before, I'm kind of a fan myself, so I'm excited to do this. Like, I've started listening to you guys, or you here, was it 3 months ago? And I've been listening ever since.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you. I think we have a lot to learn from you, man. So to give you guys a little background on Casey, Stand Up Guys Junk Removal is the name of his business. He started it in 2008 or 9?
Yeah.
Yeah, around that time. Has grown it now to have 7 branches in 6 cities. We got 2 in Atlanta, 1 in Marietta, where you're from, Atlanta and Lawrenceville. 56 employees.
Yes, sir.
That is the proud part of this.
Yes,
and I want to talk later about how you open new branches and give these employees opportunities to basically franchise a branch of what you're doing. I mean, $4 million in sales you're on pace for this year. 18% profit margin. Just to kind of let you guys know that on paper, this guy's a badass.
There's money in junk.
There's some money in junk removal. So I'm so excited to talk about this. Casey, let's start from the very beginning.
Yes, sir.
How you grew up, high school, and then how you ended up getting into junk removal.
Gotcha. So way back, I grew up in a family, I guess you'd say of entrepreneurs, like a blue-collar family. My dad's owned his own contracting business for 30-plus years. So from the time I was yay high, he was always telling me, like, you want to work for yourself. Like, that was just something that he ingrained in me when I was really young. And I guess growing up, you hear that, and I never really thought of an alternative. I always just thought, like, I would wind up working for myself. What it was going to be, I have no idea, growing up. But then, my high school days came, and I don't want to say I was a piece of work. Like, so I got myself in trouble. I was about this close to being a dropout of high school. I actually got sat down for my counselor in high school sat me down. I think it was my sophomore or junior year, and just told me, like, look, you're on pace to go absolutely nowhere here. So your best bet would probably be to drop out and get a jump start on the workforce, like learn a trade or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I took that as such a slap in the face that I decided, like, I have to buckle down and just get through this. And then that's exactly what I did. And I think that was like a really big lesson for myself early on, that it was, if I put my mind to something, I'm gonna make it happen, I can make it happen.
And this is finish high school.
This is. I didn't go to college or anything like that, but like from where I was,
hey, that's sweaty,
just finished.
Man.
Yeah.
I love that part of your story.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. You and Max Maher, my 2 badass friends running service businesses just like me. Neither of you all finished school.
Yeah. I mean, I was envious of people when they were going off to college. But as I look back, I'm so blessed to have the experiences that I had. And a lot of it was that I did get a jump start on learning how to work for myself and being out in the real world at 18, 19, 20 years old. But anyways, like I eventually did graduate high school, very low on the list, but I made it. So that, to me, it was a big deal at the time. And then, I went off and I was doing different things. I was valeting cars. I was working with my uncle or my dad here and there, just like making money wherever I could. And then I think I was telling you the story the first time we ever met, and I was in a restaurant in Marietta, and I was with a couple friends. I was 19 years old, and I was leaving the restaurant, and as I'm leaving, this guy grabs my arm, and I swear to God, he grabs my arm and he tells me, "Hey, I was watching you sit over there, and for some reason, I just wanted to tell you about this book." And
oh my God,
he writes the book down on a receipt, and he hands it to me. And at the time, like, I wasn't an avid reader. I did, like anybody could have said, "Hey, read this book," and I'm not paid zero attention to it. I'm not going to read the book. But because it was so off the wall, the way he went about it, I went home and I bought the book the next day, and then I read it. And it was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And while reading the book, I made the decision that I'm going to do something right here, right now, and I'm just going to figure out, I'm going to start a business, and I'm just going to do it right now. And I was, like I said, I was valeting at the time, and I basically just started saving my money, and I guess you can call it a business plan, but I basically just wrote out what I was going to do. And part of it, and then I decided it was going to be hauling junk, because I had done that on the side back in high school just to make extra money with my dad. Like, not with him, but like using his trailer. I was doing it for some of his customers and stuff like that. So I thought, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to build it into a business, and I'm going to scale it. And that's exactly what I did.
As a 19-year-old.
As a 19-year-old.
And here we are, fast forward 13 years later, and you're in 6 states, 7 cities, and on pace for $4 million in sales.
Yeah. And
so take us to your mindset at that time. You reached out to me originally and said that was kind of a rough time in your life for, especially to jump into something as stressful as building a business.
Yeah. I was drinking and drugging and partying a lot at the time. And, when this all came to a head at the same time when I was realizing that not only did I want to start my own business, but I wanted to get my life together. And so I started a business. I saved up $4,000. That's what I did at the time. I saved up $4,000 and bought a pickup truck, and that was everything I had. I remember I wrote when I wrote the guy a check, I had $12 left in the bank to buy the truck, right? So I'm doing that, and at the same time, I decided to, like, on a personal level, I was going to get sober. So I quit the lifestyle that I was living, and then also started a business at the exact same time. So it was just like, it was so much, and it was stressful, but in the end, it was all worth it to go through it all at the same time. Because if I would have got sober, that's hard enough as it is, and then starting a business is hard enough as it is. So for me, it was better just to do it all at one time, get it out of the way.
The business gave you something to kind of jump in and get really serious about, put your eggs in that basket.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, like, I was using the business as something to focus on. And because it took up all my time. I mean, in the beginning, I stayed working at night, parking cars. And so I had a routine. It was basically, I would park cars at night. I usually got home around like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I would drive. There was this place once or twice a week. I would drive down the road to this place that sold signs for like realtors and stuff, and I'd go in their dumpster, and I'd pull all the old ones out, and I'd spray paint the back of them, and then write junk removal with a Sharpie on it.
Bandit signs.
And they were free because I was basically, I guess you could say I was stealing them, but they were in a trash can.
My next question was, how did you get your early customers? And
that was it. Yeah.
So you'd park cars, valet the cars,
and then I'd put those signs out at night at like 3 a.m.
Okay. Run around town to the spots where you knew cars were going to be parked, waiting for long lights or whatever.
And like a lot of times you don't want to do it. Well, you have to do it late at night because you don't want to be. First of all, you don't want to get hit by somebody, and you don't want anybody seeing you doing it. Because I guess technically it's frowned upon. So,
hey, that's guerrilla marketing. You realize what's the worst that could happen? I get a call to come pick up my sign.
Yeah. So I was really burning the candle at both ends. I mean, I was working at night, and then I guess I was doing that late at night, and then I'd wake up in the morning and just hope my phone would ring. I probably did that for a year at first, and then eventually I was able to make enough money to stop parking cars and then just focus solely on.
So the phone started ringing. How'd you quote these early jobs? Did you have a website? Did you have a Google My Business location, or?
This was 2008 or 9, so no.
So the phone rang. You said, "Hey, this is Casey, stand-up guys." Were you stand-up guys junk removal?
No, at that time, yeah, I was. But I think I named a business within like 3 or 4 months, and that's what I named it. And no, I didn't have a website. I didn't have anything. And then, I mean, it was all a learning process because, like, when I say I didn't know anything, I can't stress enough that I had no idea what I was doing. I remember I used to answer the phone, hello, and didn't think nothing of it. And then I had a customer one time. She was forceful in the way she said it, but like looking back, it's like I'm so glad she did. But at the time, she was like, "That's unprofessional. Don't do that." And I was like, "I'm sorry." And she was just like, answer the phone with your name and the name of your business. And that's professional. And I never answered the phone hello again. There's so many of those little nuggets that I learned along the way because it's almost like anything I did at first wasn't the right thing. But the one skill that I had, and I feel like I still have today, is I'm not a know-it-all. I do not pretend or think that I know everything. So that kind of leaves me open to learning at any point. Because like I always assume that there's something to learn, because when you know everything, you can't learn anything. And the know-it-alls are the ones,
So you've been constantly just shifting and learning and changing and taking advice from whoever will give it to you and saying, okay, does that make sense? I'm going to do it. I'm going to adjust the business and change. Has that been the story?
Oh, yeah, it has. A lot of it's throwing shit against the wall and seeing what sticks. But, I mean, that's how I have figured it out. And then, like, even the people that I have with me today, like, we kind of do that as we go, as we've expanded and things like that, because there was no book out there that's going to just tell you, okay, take these steps in this business to get to this point, especially with the way that we've grown it, because we didn't franchise. So all of the branches are all a corporate own. Like, we own everything.
Well, I made a mistake when I said that you allow your employees to kind of franchise. They stay under your wing.
Mm-hmm.
They just open a new branch of your business.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get to all those employees, I do want to dive into the employees, because I think that's the toughest part of any of these businesses that we do. Okay, so the phone starts ringing more.
Yep.
How much revenue are you making by the time you're like, okay, I got something legit here? When did you start to make those steps of, all right, let's try to take it from just me during the day, figuring this out, putting out, bandit signs at night, to taking that next step? And what was that next step?
So the biggest step that I took after that, I think I made a revenue of, I think it was $82,000.
By yourself?
Yeah, by myself.
Wow, that's great.
That's just the revenue, though. So the margin, I don't even know what it was at that time.
Well, you had to pay to dump all your garbage.
Yeah. And I mean, insurance, trucks, all that.
Okay.
So I mean, I wasn't killing it, but I was making enough money to get by. And so I basically looked at it like, how can I start to work on my business and not in my business? And the biggest step that I took at that time was I hired someone, or I already had an employee, but I basically put him in the driver's seat of the truck, and then I stayed back, and I let him drive, him bid the jobs, do all that to the point where I could step completely off.
But you were there with him, you were just watching
at first, yeah. And then eventually, within like a week or so, I realized, like, okay, like, he's just as good, if not better at this than I am. At the time, I didn't even have an office, so I just stayed at home. And then that was another huge learning point, because I stayed at home, and I remember I had nothing to do. But I think that was a big learning point for me, because I had to figure out what to do. So my entire mindset was, how can I find more work? And I had no physical work to do with my hands, so I put all my effort towards finding more work to make sure that truck ran full time, to make sure, and then that led me to the point where, okay, now I know how to do this without me being on the truck, and just like that, we had two of them. So I go by myself on a truck for like 3 or 4 years, and as soon as I stepped off, we went from 2 to 3 to 4, like very quickly.
It was 3 years of you out working.
Oh, yeah, 3 or 4, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, something like that.
So you basically learned the ins and outs, everything that can happen in the business, and then you put that employee in the driver's seat, you stepped back and realized, okay, what am I going to do?
And I have been taking that exact step ever since that day. So every time I feel like I'm too busy, I take a step back and I give it off to somebody else, and then I have to find something to do. And that's
which almost always involves sales and drumming up new business.
Yeah, or just working on the business in general, because sometimes the sales are there, but like you have to work on the systems and processes and things like that. But if you're too busy working at your business every day, you have no time whatsoever to work on the business, and you're just an employee. And so every time I've taken a step back, I find myself busy again. And then hire out the same process over and over.
That's a really interesting, the business outgrew us as well. I think about my storage days. It's very easy when you're out on the truck working for the customers to come and the employees to come in. Before you know it, you got something too big to manage right then, until you take a step back and say, okay, I got to start putting out some of these fires before they become fires. Yeah. I got to prevent the fires instead of just running around putting them out.
I think that's really hard, though, for people, because you have to – it goes back to, like, accepting that you don't know everything, because so that was, I was driving the truck, and I just assumed that no one could do this as good as me. That was my assumption. Like, no one can deal with these customers and price these jobs and drive this truck, do all these things as good as me. And I quickly realized, like, I'm not that special. Like, somebody else can do just as good, if not a better of a job. And like, that's one of the biggest lessons I've ever learned in business, was you need to know your weaknesses and find people that's their strength, and not just because if you spend your time working on your weaknesses, you don't get to spend the time using your strength. Because I look at like baseball, like in business. To be good at business, it's not the same as baseball. I don't need to be a 5-tool player, because if I'm really good at hitting but I can't field, I don't need to be a better fielder. I just hire somebody to field the ball so I can focus on hitting.
The guys who are good at everything are out of the league.
Exactly.
The jacks of all trades are out of the league.
Exactly.
The guys who can hit the ball really, really well get paid a lot of money.
Or not even do anything. I mean, you almost don't have to be good at anything to be good at business. I have a friend of mine that owns 5 salons, and he's never cut hair a day in his life. And it's just like, you have to find people that are good at it, and then you put them in the driver's seat to maximize their strengths, and then you work on the business. Because like if he was really good at cutting hair, he probably would have started cutting hair and then never started a business.
Yeah, I'm sure people ask you all the time, like, why junk removal? Do you love hauling junk? Do you love junk? And you're like, I have not hauled one piece of junk in
a long time,
in 6 or 7 years, probably.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what you're passionate about or what you want to be doing. Every entrepreneur is going to end up doing the same thing, which is hiring, training, putting in processes, systems, growing the business.
Yep.
Okay, so you got one Marietta. How big did Marietta get before you're like, hey, I might be able to actually open up another branch? And so this is around 2013 or 12 that you hired your first employee.
First employee to drive a truck, I think it was 2011.
So you got off the truck. We'll set that as the biggest day of your career.
Yes.
The day you got off the truck.
Yes.
The same thing for me.
Oh, yeah.
The biggest day for me was the day that me and Danny got off the
Scariest day of my career, too. I mean, scariest
Absolutely.
day.
2011.
Yep.
How many employees, how did it grow from there? I know you said it happened pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, in the next 2 years, one of the big things I did was about a year after that, I started realizing that one of my weaknesses was sales. I just wasn't that good at it. Marketing events or just like cold calls, selling, it just wasn't my strong point. And I made, at the time, which was a really big risk for me financially, is I hired a full-time salesman on salary. And so I remember looking at it and I thought, okay, I can afford this guy for 3 months. If it doesn't work out in 3 months, I'll have to fire him.
How'd you find him, and what did he do?
We actually grew up together.
Okay.
And he had just graduated college and was working somewhere in Atlanta.
Hated his job.
I don't know that he hated it. I hope he did. But I was at his house one night and I sat him down and I gave him a proposal, and it was like, I'll pay you. I think I paid him about what he was making, but with kind of a incentive into the future. And you know, it worked out because he focused solely on that, and I didn't have to think about it or do it anymore. And he was far better at it than I was, and we started drumming up business.
And when you say sell, I mean, I picture the junk removal business. You get people who find you on Google, or they hear from a friend and call you.
Yeah,
what is
that's
he
a
selling?
large part of it.
Who's he selling?
So I mean, you know, he's going to like the property management companies, businesses of all kind, realtors, and then doing like events. Like he'll get up and talk in front of people and stuff like, which I don't want to do. You know, I don't.
You're in front of thousands
he does
of people
it all,
right now.
Well, he does it all. I mean, when there's faces looking at you, it's a whole different ballgame. But like, you know, he goes to conventions and does. He still works for me today. That was
So what happened? A couple months in, you had 3 months of salary.
And I mean, it was not even 3 weeks. I realized like, oh, it's going to work out. Yeah. So you know, it was. But at the time, hiring him, I remember being really, really nervous about it because like if I screw this up, I can mess up not only what he's doing with his career, but you can mess up a friendship doing that.
Absolutely. How many trucks did you have at that time?
2.
Okay, so you weren't on a truck, so you were also running around, still doing bandit signs, still drumming up business.
Yep.
Okay, then you hired the salesman. What happened then?
We went from 2 to 4 trucks probably in the next year.
Wow.
Yeah, and then 2013 came around, and we were humming pretty nicely at like 4 or 5 trucks.
Have an office at this point?
Yeah, we had an office, and I, again, took a step back, and I hired someone to do the day-to-day logistics and like run the trucks and manage the crews and all that.
Where they're heading and their schedules for the day.
And so, again, and like our office was too small for me to fit in, so I was back at home, right? So it's too, and then I'm sitting there thinking.
You kicked yourself out of your own office.
That's exactly what I did. So I was either like spend more money and get a bigger office for all of us, or I just leave them in there and then I just, I find something else. And I did that for about a month, and then I realized like, okay, I need to expand. Because I needed something to do. And I needed to either expand my services or expand my service area.
Because Marietta was about tapped on what you thought.
Yeah. And so instead of, which probably would have been a smart move, was to go to Lawrenceville then. I said, I'm going to go south.
Yeah.
Lawrenceville's
on the other side of Atlanta.
Yeah. So I decided I'm going to go 500 miles south to Tampa Bay and start over.
How'd you pick that city?
It was at the time. The winter it slows down, and my thinking was, there's no winter because it's always hot. And then I had an employee that came to me and he said, if there's ever an opportunity for me to be a manager or to run a branch, I want to do it. And so I sat him down and I said, after he told me that like a month prior, and I sat him down and I was like, let's do it. Where do you want to go? And I was like, I want to go. I told him anywhere south because I'm trying to go where it's hot, thinking I'm going to get rid of the winters. And he picked Tampa Bay, and so that's where we went.
And so you put him in a truck and sent him down there?
We got in a truck and went down there.
Both of you left?
Yes, yeah. Because
so who managed your home location at that
so
point?
The guy that I was running it, I basically gave him a promotion and said, you're in charge of all this now.
Oh, okay.
And then me and my employee packed up everything we had in a truck.
In a junk hauling truck?
In a junk hauling truck, and drove to Tampa. And
Okay.
I rented a house from a property management company that we worked for in Atlanta for like $1,000 a month, and we both lived together for the first year. And
you and your employee?
Me and my
Did
employee.
you have a wife at this time?
I did not, no.
Okay. We'll talk about how the family mixes in it all
Yeah,
this later.
well, that changes everything.
So this is gritty. This is nitty-gritty
Yeah,
stuff. You guys are like, we're just going to go there and we're going to make it work. We're going to figure it out.
A big lesson that I would tell anyone is, like, do not be afraid to start small. And that even when you're expanding. And, because at the time, I had thought of this idea and then didn't do it, right, at first. Because I'm thinking in my mind, I have to start small. It's going to take 2 or 3 years to get to where we're already at here in Marietta. Like, I don't know that I can, like, that's a long time. And then if you really sit back and think, it's like that time's going to pass regardless. So it's like you might as well be doing something that's building towards the future. And I drove down to Florida. I had 0 leads. I had an employee that I promised hours to. And I had 1 truck and probably almost less money than I started the original business with. Because, like, I didn't put a ton towards this. I looked at this like we have to make this work on the least amount of money possible so I don't leverage what we've already built in Georgia. And literally it's the same story over again. I get down there. I did the same exact thing again.
Bandit signs.
Yeah, but, there were so many lessons that I had learned the first time that I applied the second time. So it went from what took me 3 years to build took me 18 months. And
so you were 18 months later from the day you moved down there, you had your 4 trucks and some crews.
I think we had 3 at the time, 2 or 3 trucks there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then it was just kind of after that, like I took the entire experience in Tampa and really, like, every step that I took, I would actually write it down. Like everything that I would do so that way I could do it again. And it wasn't just me kind of going off the hip. Mm-hmm. And I mean, yeah, we started small, and that time passed, like I said, and then it all worked out. And
all
then,
right. So how long until you opened the 3rd branch? And where was the 3rd branch?
I think it was beginning of 2015. I had an employee from Atlanta come to me, say the same thing. I want to start a branch, and this time I said, "You pick the city, wherever you want to go, and we'll figure it out."
So basically, this guy's going to relocate. Tell me where you want to move, where you want to live.
Because I don't want you to go. I don't want to like say, okay, this is the best market. I need you to move here, and then him not like it. So like I'm looking at it like you're doing me a favor. I'm doing you a favor. Let's do this together. And of course, he picked Nashville, and so that's where our 3rd branch was. And so then that was my first expansion that I had ever done without being there. And so like I learned that process. You know what I'm saying? Like so like the first one was I came to watch it happen and to be part of it so that I could, learn as I did it. And then I take everything I learned and I did it remotely. And then we started Nashville. And then we did Raleigh, North Carolina. And then we did Dallas. And then we expanded into Lawrenceville and then Sarasota. And now we have 2 or 3 cities we're looking at in the next couple of years.
And waiting on employees to come to you and say, I want to live in Charlotte. Or
Yeah. I mean, now, it's hard. At first, it's hard to find guys that are willing to do it, but once they see it working, people then want the opportunity. So it's like I really look at those first couple of guys like I would have never been able to do this without them because they looked at it, and it wasn't like, yes, they believed in the business, but they had to have believed in me to know, like, okay, this guy's solid, and, like, whatever we do, we're going to do it, and we'll figure it out, and we'll make it happen. And so, doing the right thing and being a dependable person can pay off in that aspect too, because those guys trusted me to change, uproot your life for a business is, especially when you don't know if it's going to work out or not.
And so I want to talk about the employees now.
Yeah.
From the beginning, how did you find good people to help you do this stuff? I mean, you're talking about 4 crews, removing yourself from the business. Somebody's in the office making big decisions. Mm-hmm. They're making decisions every day. Mm-hmm. Your guys out on the truck are making decisions every single day.
Yeah.
How did you manage that?
Well, I had the beginning was, I wouldn't say it's easy, but I had people that I knew because I was still at home. So finding people.
You leaned on your network, your personal
yeah,
network.
like my own network of people is kind of how I found them in the beginning, and then. A lot of I had at one point I had 8 employees when we were in Marietta, and that was 2012. 7 of them still work here. So, yeah. So that's a big part of doing, that's a big part of, that warms my heart when I think about that, because it's all worked out for all of us. And those guys have stuck by me, and I've stuck by them, and it's been 7 years since then. And,
you've retained 7.
I got employees that have families and homes.
I asked Casey what he was
that.
most proud of this business, and he said the over 50 employees. That was a huge thing.
Yeah.
Like 50 people that are making their careers, building themselves, becoming better people because of what you've done.
Yes.
They're
the hardest part about business, but they're also the best part of it for me, because it brings the most satisfaction of all. Like I said, looking at an employee of mine where they generate their income from this business that I built, and they pay to put a roof over their head, put food in their families' mouths, and things like that. I mean, that means a lot to me. Mm-hmm. But I tell them all the time, maybe not enough, but it's like none of it would have happened if it wasn't for the people that I had, because I can pretend like I'm some guru and this is all because of me, but this is not the case. I had really good people around me that helped me build this business, and a lot of times when I'm talking, it's a lot of we. It's rarely me, especially with them. Like when I'm talking with them about ideas that we're going to expand. I have a tendency to be all over the place. So I'm always I might tomorrow think okay, let's just open up in every city tomorrow. This is not feasible whatsoever. And then they'll corral me in, and we'll come up with ideas together. And I've built this business with these people, and they have a big part of it.
They bought in.
Yeah, they bought into the idea. Yeah.
And so if you could pinpoint one thing that allowed these employees to buy in, because they're still hourly employees, right? Some of them are salaried at this point.
Yeah.
But a lot of them early on, they were working hourly work, hauling junk. How did you get people excited and to really buy into the vision? And what can other entrepreneurs who are listening to this take away from, okay, I have a sweaty service business. Mm-hmm. How am I going to find good people? How am I going to get people on board? It seems like you're a better salesman than you think, because
I can sell myself.
You convince these people on your mission and your goals.
Yeah. That's a loaded question.
There's no real answer.
There's no exact answer. I think so much of it, though, and I was talking about it earlier, being dependable, I think so much of it depends on you as an individual, because when you're working, especially in a small business, the owner has such a big part in every day that you're looking at him or her as, do I trust this person, even more than do I trust this business? And I think that I was able to really convince and portray to the people that were working with me that it's just I'm going to be dependable and you can count on me. And it's just whatever we got to do, we're going to figure it out together. And I try to bring, and the employees that are with me make decisions. I don't just make all the decisions and tell everybody deal with it. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of, we're all in it together. And I think that has really helped me from day one to get people to be on board and then to stay on board. Mm-hmm. But I also think a lot of it is just, I can't really pinpoint exactly what it is. I always I tell my guys, and I look at it a lot. I say, we have to do the right thing. And that might seem broad, but it's you know it when you see it with certain situations. And I just feel when you do the right thing, you yield long-term results. because you can take shortcuts in so many cases, and it benefits you right then and there, but it doesn't benefit you long term. And I think that goes a long way with employees too, because they'll see the moves that you make, and if you're making moves that are for the long term, they know that this is solid. Like even if you have like a disgruntled customer, if you have a customer that's pissed off, and
you haven't had any of those.
No, never. But let's say you have a customer that's pissed off at something. The easiest, fastest, cheapest route is to tell them, sorry, kick rocks. But that doesn't yield long-term results. So it's just like, if you want to make that customer happy, it's going to cost time, money, and who knows what else. But in the long run, to keep as many customers happy as you possibly can is the best possible thing for the business. And that might not be directly towards an employee, but I think they watch that and they see that type of stuff. And so I've always told them, and I try to portray it myself and live it myself, where it's just like always try and do the right thing. And like I said, you don't know it till you see it, but when you see it, you know it.
It's building the culture over time. It's building the culture over time of them watching your actions and buying into what's going on. Okay, so you're making this sound easy. You're making it sound way too easy. Tell me what's the biggest challenge? I'm sure 2015, 2016, you're in some new cities. Maybe your systems aren't quite ready. They're not quite caught up. Was there ever a time where you're like, oh my God, this is too much. This is going to fail, or maybe not to that degree. But what was your biggest challenge while kind of spreading out and growing from a one-man shop in Marietta that was going to build a great life for you to now trying to just go bigger and go to more cities and take more risk and try to build something that's really special?
It's actually pretty simple. It's just cash flow. Because I've bootstrapped the entire thing. I never took any loans. I never.
I'm sure many people have wanted to partner with you over the years.
Yeah, and I looked at it where like if we can make it on our own, we can make it on our own profits. But that can lead to a lot of sleepless nights. Because early on when we expanded the first time, I remember looking at it and thinking there was an expiration date. Like if we didn't figure it out by this date, I was going to have to close shop and put my tail between my legs and go back home.
Because the money was going to run out.
Because money was going to run out. And then, so it's like we got to drum up.
You get paid the day you service, though. It's not like 30-day terms.
But when you don't have work, you're not getting paid. You know what I mean? So like when we first got to Tampa, like we weren't generating as much work because like I said, we were
spending a lot of money but not making a lot of money.
Yeah, we were brand new. Like we didn't have any recognition in the area. I didn't know a soul.
Did you hire a content marketer, SEO guy to get your web presence going on around there?
Yeah, but that takes time. And so Marietta was funding this new branch, and so that it puts you on a real thin line because if something goes wrong in Marietta or a big ticket, item comes up where you got to pay for something, all of a sudden then the money runs out down here because this isn't self-sufficient, you got to there's you juggle a lot of things. There's a lot of things that I look at that were really hard, and a lot of times it's money and people, and I have a lot of really great people that have been with me from the beginning, but it doesn't mean that everybody that came through the door was just great. And like, you need good people. Like it is really hard to build a business with just people that don't care. And there's a lot of people that have come through the door that
So you've made some hires that real soon you realized that they didn't care about you. They didn't care about your expenses. They didn't care about causing problems for you.
I can't even tell you the amount of people I've hired that didn't show up the first day.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know what I mean? So that's why I really covet the good ones. Like the people that come through the door and like help build this business, like those people mean so much to the business, and they mean so much to me because I've seen the other side of it. And it's rough. It's rough.
You're talking about your employees the way I hear grandparents talk about their grandkids. You're proud.
Yes.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. Okay, so tell me about a nightmare scenario that you had to deal with. Like, maybe the guys just messed something up and it was a huge problem for you, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I think we were
I told you this. Yeah, I want you
to tell the story because it's hilarious.
So we're working for a property management company, and they send us a list of addresses, and we go in and we clean the houses out. We do it over and over and over and over again. And it gets to a point where we get to one of the houses, and my employee calls the manager, and he says, the lockbox isn't working. I can't get in the door. The manager calls the company, says the lockbox isn't working, blah, blah, blah. They go back and forth, or everybody's trying to figure out why the lockbox isn't getting them in the door. And finally, the the property management company calls us back and says, look, we have to have this cleaned out. Just go around back and break in. Just use a screwdriver or something, break in the glass and go in the house and clean it out. Mm-hmm. So he did that. My employee busted the window, or busted a little pane of glass, goes in, cleans out the junk that's inside, and then 2 hours go by, and the property management company calls and says, hey, we need you to clean the house out. Why haven't you guys cleaned it out yet? And we said, well, we did. And they were like, no, we just had somebody go by. You didn't clean out the house. And it turns out we went to 121 North Street when it was supposed to be 121 North Avenue.
Oh, no.
And it just so happened to be a new house with a lockbox on it with almost the exact same address 2 miles down the road.
Oh, no.
And then, so we basically...
Was the stuff already at the dump?
Yeah, it was gone. By that point, it was gone. And, those are, I always think, I've seen it all. And then something like that happens. So, then you got to deal with it because you basically broke into somebody's house and...
You threw away all their personal belongings.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bad situation, man. I'm sorry I just had to make
it.
You should have seen the look in his eyes when he said, yeah. Oh, my god.
But you get through it. I think a big thing when you're looking at running, if anyone out there is thinking about running a business or thinking expanding, think about all the bad things that can happen. And it's just but you'd figure it out. No matter what happens, you can get through it. And I think that's an important distinction to make is problems will come up. You will deal with issues on all different fronts. But I don't think that there's anything out there that someone with half a brain can figure out. You just do the right thing and fix a problem.
This whole story is that of trial by fire.
Yes.
You literally did not have a degree. You didn't have a business book that you read that told you exactly what to do. You didn't have a mentor that was guiding your every move. You didn't have a partner. Mm-mm. You just went in and said, I'm going to look at every situation, try to make the best decision that I can, and see what comes of this thing.
Yep. That's exactly what it is.
That's the hardest part, I think. For so many entrepreneurs, there's just some sense of insecurity that goes along with that.
Yeah.
It's taught to us in school, especially in college. It's taught to us in every aspect of life of do what's safe, right? Take the safe route.
Yeah. I think safe is always easier, but is it going to get you where you want to go? Mm-hmm. If someone's out there thinking, I want to start this business, but there's this, and this, it's there's going to be a million reasons not to do something. Mm-hmm. But there's always one really good reason to do it. And if I could say one thing that can really get you over the hump is do something. Just do something. I used to work with my uncle, and he remodeled homes, and I'd go out and work with him, and I'm not that handy when it comes to I wasn't a construction worker, but I'd go out and I'd work with him, and if he ever saw me standing there doing nothing, he would literally just be like, Casey, do something. I don't care if it's right or wrong, just do something. Yeah. And I think about that all the time with myself. If you're just moving and doing something, that will pay off. You will eventually figure out the right direction if you're just moving, because it's almost like action gets rid of anxiety. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel. Action will get rid of the anxiety, and it gets you moving in a direction, and then it snowballs from there.
Yeah, it's momentum. I mean, your story, it's literally you were at a place in your life where you weren't happy. Mm-hmm. You realized I'm going to wake up 30, 40 years from now, and I'm not going to have done much. Mm-hmm. This is not where I want to be. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to do something. I'm just going to get out of my comfort zone. I'm going to go try to do something.
Yep.
And look what you did now.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, and that literally was just do something. Because when I first got started, I remember at one point I laid sheathing down in someone's crawl space, and I cleaned out their gutters. It was basically I would go out and do whatever you asked. If you're going to pay me, I'm here. I got a truck. I will do whatever you ask, because I was just always doing something. And then it just it just kept leading to kind of where we got eventually, where I saw the best margins were if I just got in and I cleaned out junk for somebody, and that was it. Mm-hmm. But in the beginning, it was just I'd do whatever. I'll just be doing something.
So you got to where you are by saying yes, 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 yes to everything. Mm-hmm. Are there some times now where you've had to make some really hard decisions? I'm sure the opportunities are coming at you a lot faster now.
Yeah. Yes.
Now that you've grown a business, I mean, how do you say no? How do you guard your resources and
Good
your time?
People. My guys have to tell me to say no.
So you're still a yes man.
Yeah, I mean, well, because I'm I'm like a mouse in a maze, and there's different cheese everywhere, and I'm always trying to test. Yes. And so, and that's what I was saying. Like, you have good people, because I think of myself as an idea man at times. Like, I have all these ideas, but they're not all going to pay off, and they're not all feasible. You need a technician. You need someone people that can help you guide your own thoughts. And it's like, that's why, like, I bounce things off of all my guys. Like, all the time, we're always bouncing ideas back and forth. And a lot of times I'm saying the stuff that's the most off the wall, and they gotta reel me in. And there's a lot of times, like, now, like, we've reeled back, like, things that we do because of liability and things like that.
Focus on what you do best.
And focus on, like, what's gonna make us money. What's the least amount of, like, liability and things like that can keep us and be scalable as well. Because if somebody was like, "Hey, will you cut our lawn?" If I'm on the phone, the unfortunate thing is I'm just going to say, "Yeah."
I know all about that.
Yeah,
I know all about that. So what's next for you? What's next? You built up a great business. You're making almost $1 million a year. It's going to be pretty easy for you to just get really fit and sit on the beach and hang out with your friends and travel around.
Yeah.
And you got a baby now and an awesome wife.
I have a beautiful wife and a beautiful little girl.
How's
She's
that?
about to turn
that
1 in 2 weeks.
Man.
Actually,
How's that change things?
It puts a lot of things in perspective. I mean,
makes the problems not so big.
It really does. And then, but also, like, I can sit back and, like, look, and then, like, everything I did feels like it was so worth it. Because there was a lot of hard times where I'm just like, what am I doing? But not like in no way do I feel like I've made it, and, like, I hope I never get to that point. Because, like, when you ask me what's next, it's just like, I think, like, we're not even halfway there.
I was sitting at lunch with you, with Danny, in a local restaurant, and I was like, so you got to be happy. Like, are you just going to kind of put the business on cruise control and, like, enjoy it? And he's like, well, we really love this city, this city, this city, this city, this city, this city, and we got the funds now to go here. And I'm like, whoa.
Well, that's like, that's.
So you're a builder.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's what keeps it in motion too. I mean,
that's what's the fun about it.
I mean, I do hope that one day I can retire early and be happy with it, but. I like where we're going, and I don't want to stop, and I don't want anybody around me to think, like, I don't want the guys to think, like, oh, Casey's just going to be kind of done with it, and we're going to sit where we at, because I think that would be the hardest way to retain employees is if you just stop growing, and you're like, hey, we're making enough money, let's just stay here. It's now a 9 to 5, just clock in, clock out. But I mean, every business gets to that point, but I just don't think that we're anywhere close to it yet.
That's exciting. So what's your day-to-day look like? What do you do right now? You just flew from Tampa, where your family is, up to Atlanta. How long are you going to stay? Like, what's your goal with this trip? Like, let people know, kind of as the CEO now of a company with 55 employees, 53 employees, 56. Yeah. What are your roles? What do you feel like you are doing right now?
I basically look at it like I manage 7 people or like 5 people now.
These are your salaried people that are making decisions for you.
Yeah, and so like I look at my job in the business as I have these branch managers in place, and I let them make decisions. I let them do what they do best, and I try and remove any obstacles that get in their way. And so I never know what that's going to be.
So you're asking them what's slowing them down. And if they say it's our software, then you're going to dive into that problem. If they say it's the people here, then you're going to dive into that problem. So you're basically removing bottlenecks from your management team.
That's what I'm attempting to do at all times. But too, I go from, like, I'm here. I have family here, so I'll see my dad when I'm in town. I go and I'll talk with my managers at both branches. We go over things. I'm constantly trying to keep my pulse on everything too, because it would be easy just to kind of sit back and not do anything.
You neglect Nashville for too long, and next thing you know, you got big problems there. And
that goes back to the long-term, short-term stuff, because, like, short-term, I could do absolutely nothing. I really could. I could kind of do nothing and get away with it for a decent amount of time, but, like, what is that going to do long-term? And, like, I've talked about my employees numerous times already, but, like, I kind of hold myself accountable to them, too. So I don't want to be doing nothing and jeopardize them or, like, what they've done or – what the future holds. And so I kind of put that pressure on myself, where it's like I always got to be making sure we're moving, keep the wheels moving, and putting out as many fires as I can.
You got me fired up, man. I got to say. I think people listening to this are going to be like, damn, this is pretty awesome.
I think the best thing you could take from my story is I don't want to say I'm dumb, but I'm not some genius. And like, because I look at $4 million is a lot of money to me. That's a lot of money to generate in 1 year.
To anybody.
And I did it on just grit and like sweaty startup. Like really is. And like that's what it like that's exactly where this started from. We've bootstrapped it, and it's just like I have found good people and created good systems, and everything came from that. That's literally, it's not from, I'm not like, not all coming from my brain. Like
we're not sitting genius. Here, I don't claim to be anything special either. I had the lowest SAT score to ever go to the Ivy League. I believe that just because I could run and I got in there for track and field. But I mean, that's the thing about business. Yeah. People think that you have to be special, that you have to be world class, that you have to have an amazing idea. They don't understand that you can just be an average dude or gal and just make decisions the best you can and work at it.
I've had a lot of friends along the way meet me and then realize like, oh, I thought you had to be special to run a business. And they realize how unspecial I am, but it's just like I'm motivated and I am willing to accept what I do not know and hire people that know it and use the people around me to build a business.
Love everything about it.
Oh, yeah, man.
It's the epitome of the sweaty startup.
There you go.
So there's a young entrepreneur out there or a 30-year-old entrepreneur who they don't know they're an entrepreneur yet. They're working a day-to-day job. They're listening to the sweaty startup. They're getting a little pumped up. What advice you got for those people? I mean, they're literally they got what it takes. They have the skill set that you and I have, which we'll admit it's not nothing special.
Yep.
They're just afraid to take that leap. I mean,
I would make a decision and then I would take the leap and figure out how to land along the way. Like that's the only way I can say it is just like take the leap and you no one's just going to let themselves crash and burn. So take the leap and you'll figure out how to land. Like everybody will. Like if just do it.
And even if it's while you're parking cars, valet style, and you're making the money to pay the rent and feed yourself. Do it at 3 a.m.
Yeah. There's money everywhere, and everybody's trying to give it away all the time. So you just got to go out there and just take a little bit of it.
People hate holding on to money.
People will spend money on everything. So you just have to come up with a tiny, simple idea to take a little of it for yourself and just run with it. So, you could start a business spraying for mosquitoes. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. And, especially in the field of, home services, because I've heard you talk about it numerous times. It's so hard to find good work or good people to do work at your home. And so
it's dang near impossible.
Be halfway decent and you can make a lot of money.
A lot of money. Charge more than you think you want to charge.
Yeah.
And put yourself out there. And you don't need every customer.
Yeah, because I remember you were talking about something like they were telling you, was it a plumber or something like that, and they were booked out 2 or 3 weeks. That's my worst nightmare. I would never want to be that far booked out. And, that's kind of how I looked at it. If I was booked out 3 days, I'm buying a new truck. I'm buying a new truck, hiring more people, because, you don't want to be booked out that far because then you're not really offering that good of a service.
But it was risky, cash flow-wise. Cash flow-wise, that's the risky way to do it, but that's the way that you do something special.
Yeah.
Every mom and pop out there, they don't have the drive that you have. They want to be busy all the time because that's security for them. They can make money that way. But – there's so many services out there where you're going to wait 2 weeks. And I would gladly pay 50% more if I could get it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or the next day or the day after that.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing. What's your overall philosophy on, we just kind of went over it. So it's an unfair question. But, any last thoughts on just the way people should approach entrepreneurship? And some people maybe idolize you, want to get to where you're at.
Yeah.
Just some mindset shifts or any more tips besides and I agree with you, jump out of the airplane and build the parachute on the way down. Just figure it out.
Yeah. I would say one big thing is success. To me, success is unique to the individual. And so it's always good to sit there and really decide what success means to you. And I think that can really help you stay grounded, stay motivated, and stay moving, because success to you and success to me are two completely different things. Success to one person could be, I want to be a good father. Success to another person could be a digit in his bank account. Success to another person could be the amount of employees he has. Success to another person could be a fancy car or how much time they donate of theirs in a year. success is
life
different
is a
to
beautiful
everybody.
thing because you can go after whatever you want to go after.
I agree. And so if you define your own success, you can always be headed down that road straight for it, and not just like success. Because if you just want to be successful, it's like, what does that even mean?
So many people just are just making the decision to just get through another day and do another thing.
Yep.
And if you don't look at 5 years from now and say, where do I want to be? What do I want to be doing?
Yep.
What is success to me?
Yeah. What is success to you? And like once you know what that is, every decision you'll like, that's your North Star. Every decision you make will lead you towards that, rather than just kind of going wherever the wind takes you.
And what does success mean to you? And while you're thinking about that, I'll kind of tell you what success means to me. Like people ask me what the meaning of life is and the meaning of success for me, and it's always a better life for me and the people around me a year from now or 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Not tomorrow. Not tomorrow. That's the key distinction, is that I'm sacrificing today and tomorrow for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And I think that's the mindset that can help a lot of people. But what does success mean to you? How do you define it?
I'll say that, for me, it changes. I mean, I know where it is right now, but like, let's go back 8 years ago. A success to me would have been if I could book 10 jobs in a week. And then it got to a point.
Before that, it was just get
a call, the phone to ring, or to get my life together.
Not that you were, any different than so many people walking around, but you made a conscious decision saying, I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something special.
Exactly. And so success has changed as I've gone, because I reach what I want. And then I kind of reset, and I go in it, I keep trying to build. And like for me, like where I'm at right now, success to me is to live a good life, but also to use what we've built and have my employees live that same life. So back to what I said earlier, like having employees that can pay for the life they want, pay for their family, put mouths in their family, or put food in their family's mouths, like all that. And then me having that too, like that to me is success. And that's why I've mentioned the amount of employees I have so many times, because like that really to me is success. It really is. I mean, like that's what we've reached, that point, and that's what I'm most proud of.
Yeah. Have you sent employees on to do bigger and better things? I love that about mine. Like we hire and employ a lot of students, and like the students want to leave and they want to go get bigger and better jobs, and me being a reference for them and helping them even if I know that my business is not going to be a rewarding thing for everybody 20 years from now.
Yeah.
It's just not the case. So there's no better feeling to me as a business owner than to sending off an employee and being a step up on their journey.
Yeah.
That's a fun part.
Yeah. I guess I look at it like almost the same, like whether your step up is here or you use this as a stepping point. I mean, I had a manager a kid that started as just a hauler on the truck, and then he was a crew leader, and then he became a manager and was managing an entire branch, and he used that as a stepping stone into a career that he wanted, and like use this as a reference. And I gave him a glowing reference when because he gave me plenty of notice, but it really sucked to watch him go. But at the same time, it's like because he's a young kid. I think he's 25, and it's like you're moving on to bigger and better things, and it's just like I feel like this was a big stepping stone for you, and like this helped, and like that warms my heart.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right, so if people want to find you, figure it out. I mean, I can pass along, I can be the gatekeeper if people want to email nick@sweatystartup.com. But if somebody wants to reach out to you and have a conversation, or are you on social media, or how do you recommend people learn more about you, Casey?
I mean, I'm on like Instagram and stuff like that, but I'm not that my phone number's on the website. People can call me. Like, I can be reached at like standupguys.biz. You can find anything you want about us or me. And like, I am not hard to reach.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you sitting down and giving back, man, because it's this type of stuff that makes a big difference to a lot of people. It really does.
Oh yeah.
People reach out. The reason why I do the podcast is because people reach out and say, this is helping. Like I'm making a better life because of this. And your story is just another example of how you can do some awesome stuff in life. It's exciting.
I feel like
I want to run through a brick wall right now.
I feel like you are a little modest at times, though, on your podcast. Like people don't realize like how much you guys are rocking and rolling in your own business. It's hard to brag all the time, but like I've watched, like I'm listening to what you guys are doing, and like I'm impressed. Like I think it's incredible, and like I think like the sky's the limit with what you're doing as well.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it.
Of course.
Maybe I'll share some more of what's going on with us, but thanks for coming on, man.
Anytime.
I think this will be great for people, and maybe we'll have you on for another another episode in the future when you're in 10 cities, or you sell the business, or shoot, who knows what? You're a young guy, man. What are you gonna be doing when you're 50? Who knows?
I got 20 years to get there. So.
All right. Well, thanks again, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
I enjoyed it.